Good afternoon, class. It's Professor McDonald here doing your weekly recording to answer your questions that come into my Lumen Ohm inbox. And there's a few things I've been noticing by the questions that are coming into my Lumen Ohm inbox. And that is that students may not be aware of the weekly recordings or how to ask questions for the weekly recording. So please, when you click Message Instructor, please include a short statement that says anything about the weekly recording. Like I would say something like, "Hi, Professor, will you please include this question during your weekly recording?" Okay, because sometimes those questions come in and I'm not sure. Waiting for a reply. If you let me know that it is for the weekly recording, then I know we're on the same page. If you're not submitting a question for the weekly recording and you need more immediate help, the SLC, the Student Learning Center, has tutors in person and online. And when you get tutoring from them, that equals extra credit on your tests. So it's a great way to get help right away. And to also be getting extra credit at the same time. If those two options don't work, what you can also do is come to my office hours. Um, so I have appointments um, on Zoom, and all you have to do is go on to the Canvas homepage and look under my picture and click on office hours and schedule an appointment to meet with me if you would like to work with me on your homework questions in advance of the weekly recording or, in between the weekly recordings. Okay, so just that to make sure we're all on the same page about how to use the message instructor feature. Sometimes you may be wanting to just ask me something about why you were scored a certain way on a problem, and that's also helpful because if it's a scoring issue, I might want to address that sooner before the weekly recording. Or if it's something like their video isn't working properly, or anything you need to let me know about the assignment, um, just be communicative. And also, oh, I almost forgot to say this, and this is so important. Also, please include, um, why is it so hard to edit this? Okay, please also include, I think I have to pause this because my format's all messed up. I need to insert it. All right, now I've got myself straightened out here. So the other thing I was saying is that when you use the message instructor option, in addition to letting me know if you're submitting it for the weekly recording, another thing is to attach your work if possible. So even if you're doing this on paper with paper and pencil, you can take a picture and attach it. You can also type your work into the field. Anything you can do to let me know how I can help you will make it a lot better experience for both of us. So I appreciate that. And without any further ado, let's go on to answering our first question. All right, so this one says to solve by substitution. So I'm going to do that, which means I am going to solve one of the equations for one of the variables so that I can back substitute it into the other equation. And it helps for organization if you want to number your equations for reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve equation 2 for y, because y doesn't have a coefficient, and that's going to be the fastest, easiest way to get one of the variables alone. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides and get y equals 2 minus 5x. Now what I'm going to do is with that, I'm going to take this part of it, which is the same thing as y, and I'm going to replace the y in the first equation. So taking my first equation, negative 5x minus 3y equals negative 16, I'm just going to go in and erase the y and put in parentheses there instead 2 minus 5x. Now I will simplify and solve for x. So I'm going to distribute the multiplication here. So I'll just bring down the negative 5x, and then negative 3 times positive 2 is negative 6. And then negative 3 times negative 5x is positive 15x. And then we will combine like terms. So that gives me 15x minus 5x is 10x. Now I will add 6 to both sides to clear the 6 from this side. Okay, so I get negative 10. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 10. So when I divide both sides by 10, I get x equals negative 1. All right, so that's one solution, or one part of the solution, because our solution is going to be a point that the two lines share. In other words, they intersect at this point with an x and a y coordinate. So my x coordinate is negative 1.
I'm gonna have to still find, but
Of equation 2, y equals 2 minus 5x, because now that I know what x is, I can just put that in place of the x here. So I'm going to put negative 1 and then simplify. So y is equal to 2 plus 5. That's negative 5 times negative 1 there. Gives me positive 5. And then that gives me y equals 7. All right, on to the next one. Okay, so this one says that $8,400 was invested in two accounts. One account was earning 5% and the other was earning 8%. At the end of the year, $534 in interest was earned. How much was in each account? So what we need to do is realize that we have this $8,400 here that was split into two amounts. So that means some X amount plus some other Y amount totaled to 8,400 or $8,400. So that's one equation, right? Now I need a second equation using X and Y again. So now I'm going to use the percentages in this part of the problem. So the 5%, let's say that was the X amount, right? So we're going to do 5% times X, because that's how you do a percentage or find the interest, is you would take the amount that you invested and multiply it times 0.05, because 0.05 is the same quantitatively as same thing as 5%. 5 per 100, or 5 divided by 100, or 0.01, 0.05. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the y amount, 8%. So plus 0.08 times y. And then all of that totals to $534 in interest. Now I have two equations where I can solve by substitution or elimination or whatever you like to do. So I'm going to use substitution again. I'm going to solve for x this time just for no particular reason other than it's easy and fast to do it. So I'm going to solve, take equation 1 and rewrite it as x equals 8,400 minus y. Now I'm going to take this expression that is the same thing as x and replace it into the second equation. So I'll take my second equation, 0.05 times x, but I'm leaving space where the x is because I'm going to be putting this into it, and then just copy down the rest. Okay, now I'll come back and bring in my equivalent state, or my equivalent expression, the expression that means the same thing as x. And now I'm going to solve for y, because all I have is y. Whenever you have only one variable, you're able to solve. So this is good, okay? If you want, you can also get rid of the decimals. If I wanted to, I could multiply everything by 100 to move the decimals out of the way. To me, I don't mind having decimals. I'm just going to be using a calculator anyways, so it's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the 0.05 to the 88,400. So let's clear this out. So 8,400 times 5% is 420. So now I'm just going to write that down, 420. Now I'm also going to distribute the 0.05 to the y, so that would give me negative 0.05 times y. Now I'm just going to copy this part down, plus 0.08 times y and that equals 534. In the next step, we're going to combine like terms. So now I have 420 and then negative 0.05 plus 0.08 would leave positive 0.03 times y. Then I'm going to subtract the 420 from both sides so that I have 0.03 times y equals, and what does this give me? 114. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.03 to get, see, 114 divided by 0.03, and I got 38,000. Okay, remember that represents how much money was invested into the account, earning 8%. 8%, that's this one right here. So the y value is 3,800 or 3,800. All right, now the next thing to do is to find out what amount was invested at 5%, the x. So I'm going to come back and use equation 1 and here, okay? I'm going to use that with my answer for y, which is 3,800 or 3,800. I'm going to write that here. Instead of y, I'm going to write 3,800. And then I'm going to solve for x. And that's very easy to do because I can just subtract the 3,800 from both sides to cancel it out here. Okay, now what is 8,400 minus 3,800? 8,400 minus 3,800. Okay, that gives me a difference of 4,600. And it's not negative, it just looked negative because I was lazy about what I was doing, but I guess I should show it more appropriately. 8,400 minus 3,800 is positive 4,600. Okay, so now I have my answers for the 5% account, the account earning 5% interest. Initially, out of the $8,400 total, 3,800, I'm going to write this out. Let me write it down here. So we have the answer, $3,800 was invested into the account earning 5% interest, and 8,000, what was it? What was the answer? 4,600 was invested in the account earning 8% interest. All right, let's go on to the next one. Okay, in this one we are asked to factor some polynomials here. And notice that at the top it says solve the following quadratic expressions by factoring. First, write the expressions in completely factored form. Then write the real number solutions. Hint, remember to use proper notation when writing the real number solutions. For example, if the solutions are x equals 1 and x equals 4, write x equals 1 comma 4. Okay, good. So we're going to start with the first one here. I guess you could call that part A. Why not? Let's just give it a name. And we're going to start by factoring it. And I need to factor out something that's common to both of these terms. And so I get x times x minus 8. So that's what you would want to write here. Okay, and then you would want to set each one of those factors equal to 0 to get your solutions. So if x minus 8 equals 0 and then you add 8 to both sides, you get x equals 8. So the answers would be x equals 0, comma 8. Okay, for the second part here, we're going to factor out something that's common to both of these terms, and this time 3 and x both divide evenly into those two terms. So I'm going to take out 3x, and that leaves 3x squared divided by 3x would leave just x, and positive 12x divided by 3x would leave just 4. All right, so that's what I would write here. That would actually be my answer. And then I would set each of those equal to 0 and solve for x. So 0 divided by 3 is still 0. And if I do x plus 4 equals 0, subtract 4 from both sides to solve for x, and I get x equals negative 4. So I would write x equals 0 comma negative 4. All right, then this one down here, the common factor, the greatest common factor, is negative 6x, and that leaves x minus 2. And so that would be the answer for this part. And then my real number solutions would be setting 6x equal to 0, dividing both sides by negative 6. I would get x equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0 will result in x equals 2. So my answer, my real number solutions would be x equals 0, comma 2. And this last one here, 3x is common, so I would factor out 3x, and that leaves x minus 3, and that equals 0. And then my real number solutions, this is going to give me x equals 0, and this one's going to give me positive 3.